What's up, everybody? This is John from zZounds, and today we're virtually sitting down with guitar player Jason Richardson to talk about his all-new signature model from Ernie Ball Music Man. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely, man. Nice guitar.
Oh, yeah. I don't know whose that signature model is, but, Ernie Ball sent it to me and, plays nice.
Yeah, me either. They sent me like 5 of them. I don't know why.
How's life in COVID-19 world for you?
Well, I mean, honestly, this is the longest I've been home in like a decade.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Straight up.
Road.
Yeah, from like because of touring and stuff like that. I don't think there wasn't anything longer than like 2 or 3 months before this happened where I was in one place for like an extended period of time. I think 2 to 3 months was probably the longest like break until this. So it's definitely weird, but I've been making it work. Very fortunately, like everything's been totally fine. I've just been here trying to stay focused on getting more stuff written without forcing it. That should hopefully be finished up. Not entirely, but be back in the studio before the end of the year and hopefully have a song out before the year's over.
Nice.
Is my goal right now. Yeah.
Your guitar is awesome.
I think so too.
I played with it a little bit. I don't have like the technicality of like a metal player. But I noticed when playing it that this thing is just super versatile.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to be playing metal on it.
No.
Is there like a certain way that you went about creating the guitar to be versatile to include different hints of genres within your writing?
Well, I've always kind of had that stuff, for sure. But I was always finding like the main difference between like mine and say like the JPs or the other guitars that have like the coil tap features on there, is so for live, I kind of, the only reason I would ever use the specific configuration of all the coils is because that it was easier to get to in like a live setup. Like I don't personally like that sound. I think it's kind of dull. Like if you're playing like a clean tone with like every coil activated, as opposed to just like coil tap or just the neck or something like that. Like, something that's more smooth and like shimmery as opposed to like bitey or like just like dull kind of. I feel like that's like what all the coils sound like to me. They sound kind of like really dull sounding. But you would always have to do this extra step to activate tap. You'd have to like put the tone knob up or something like that. There's always like a 2-motion thing. And so, some of my spots and some of my songs live, I don't have that much time to like be playing the part and then get to that next one, activate that sound to like go into the clean part or something like that. So we had just eliminated that extra step because I just don't even like the way all the coils sound. So you can't even do that on this guitar because I just don't think it sounds good at all. So when you go to the middle, it just goes right to coil tap. You don't have to do anything else. So that's like my preferred sound for clean. So you'd be like riffing like there's a few or a couple parts in my songs where it goes like right from solos or something, or like a really crazy like actual metal solo, which I would be like on the neck pickup, and then it goes like in like a country twang part or something like that. But then I only have like 2 seconds to flip the switch to like a specific sound, and it's harder to get it right in the middle than it is just up and down constantly. So just not having that extra step to like go over here is really sick.
Awesome. I mean, I feel like the functionality of it is just like, it's perfect, for your playing style.
Yeah, I was mostly just getting like, I was trying to like broaden my palette a little bit and just start getting it for playing some other things and learning things that I wasn't really like doing like a ton of, like like more of the finger style stuff, like the stuff from like John Mayer, Mateus Asado, guys like that. So I got like an actual Cutlass, which I always turn the wrong way which is, I don't know if you can see that one right there behind me.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, that's an actual just regular Cutlass, triple S, 3 single coils, 22 frets, neck's a little beefy, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a Strat. So I wanted to figure out a way to like combine like, the metal sounds that you can get with the dual humbucking on the JPs, and then like that really bright shimmery kind of sound that you can get out of the actual Cutlass. So essentially what the tone knob does is it like changes from humbucking to single coil mode. So when this is up, if the switch is down, it's just the bottom coil, which could be good for like that, like, you know, any of that kind of like twangy, like telly kind of like honky tonk kind of sound that you could get out of that. And then when it's up, then it's just the top coil, which can be, you know, more like Yngwie Mayer kind of soloing sounds, just because, you know, they all ripped like just the straight single coils primarily for the most part. And then back to tap again in the middle. And then when this tone knob's down, then it's humbucking. Only humbucking in the bottom, and then or when the switch is down, and then both the top when the switch is up, and then back to coil tap again in the middle. You essentially can't have all the coils activated at the same time because I don't like that way that sounds. I had a way more like convoluted way to kind of get that across. Like it involved like another switch or something like that, and then because Ernie Ball being Ernie Ball and their awesome team of R&D figured out a way to do it way more efficiently with less moving parts, which was super sick. And that's how it ended up being just this.
Nice. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, you know, what your role kind of is in like the design process, and like, are you there like every step of the way, or do you kind of like put your trust into Ernie Ball? Like,
a little bit of
that process.
It's definitely a little bit of both. Like we would have like I would go up because I live in LA now, and the Music Man factory is up in San Luis Obispo, so it's only like a 3-hour drive north. So I have gone up there a few times for sure. To like the initial, like for this guitar, for example, like I drove up there and we all hung out for like 3 hours, like 2-3 hours there, and we're just like brainstorming, you know, like pulling images up on the internet, like going back and forth, trying to figure out what we wanted to do for this one. And I think that our initial idea was a little bit different. It was supposed to be more of like a vintage kind of like sunburst red almost in a way, but I think the guys over there, they just started messing with stuff like colors and all of this. I think they said it took like a few bodies before they ended up on this one or this exact color for it. But then when they sent it to me after we had that main session, I was like, yep, that's it. That's the one.
And I love like the Buckeye burl. You can, it's that I mean, that's the design really. And then just with like the finish over top of it just gives it like that pop that it kind of needs.
Yep, it's definitely it's different enough from the other one for sure. The other one's still sick, and they're both going to be in 6 too. By the way, both versions, this one, the red, and the old one, everyone will be able to get in 6 variants as well. So everyone's included now. Even though 7, you do have 6 strings on a 7. It's still scary for some people. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing too. Now that I have 6 for this, the band that I'm playing for now, All That Remains, all of that stuff is 6 strings. So I'll be able to use this guitar with all of that stuff. And then next year we should be doing some new stuff too, or new music too, I think is the game plan. Sometime next year, all the ATR is supposed to be working on new stuff.
Nice, dude. Lots of stuff in the pipeline.
Yep.
So do you have an expected date for a new solo album coming out?
No hard date yet. But we're getting close to finish up having enough material to go and actually start recording before the end of the year for sure.
Nice. Do you do a lot of recording at like your home studio, or do you have like a studio that you go to?
This time, yes, I'll be using all the guitar takes I'm getting in here because I'm doing everything DI in here. So I'll have all the guitars done before we go out there to like record live drums and stuff like that.
Yeah, you build the foundation and then polish it up.
Yep, exactly.
Totally. So are you using your guitar for like all of your new writing and recording and stuff like that, or are you kind of bouncing between different ones that you use?
No, I pretty much stick with mine right now. The only time I grab a different one is because of tuning, or if the strings are getting dead. I'm lazy. I hate changing strings. It's the worst thing ever. But I think I have enough signatures here now in my spot to where I could have all my different tunings that I would ever need on just my signatures and be cool.
So I feel like a lot of guitar players, you know, they'll look at, you know, guitar players such as yourself, see the speed and see the technicality, but are kind of interested in like how you built yourself up to that point. Were there any like exercises that you did that kind of put you to that next level, or like what's your kind of warm-ups?
Well, I used to have like way more structured kind of regimen when I was younger, like, you know, like still learning everything. But now I don't really have much of one, honestly. It's or like for when I was playing shows, I would pretty much just play like the hardest parts of the set that night, slower, like solos in particular, because there is such thing as over warming up too, which you can definitely do, and then you're just like exhausted by the time you go on stage. Like if you're playing for like 2 hours straight and go straight on stage, like you're gonna be spent by the time you get up there, and then you have to play an hour set, like 30 minutes to an hour set. And with All That Remains in particular, who I've been touring the most with recently, that's all right hand kind of stuff. Like especially the older stuff where you have to like down pick literally everything, and it's either just like, and then like just for like ever, like a whole song is literally just like constant down picking the entire time. So if I'm backstage for 2 hours doing that, by the time I go on stage, my right hand will just be like completely crapped out. So I'll try to spend like maybe 30, 45 minutes warming up and then take like a 20, 30 minute break and stretch before I go on. And then I'm usually perfect or like in a pretty good like balance.
So do you have a favorite album, or is that's kind of one of those questions I feel like people can give you like kind of a top 5, but is there like one album that kind of sticks out? Someone has their money on Dream Theater.
Well, yeah, they'd be right. That's the only one I have tattooed on me because it's the one that made me want to start playing guitar. So I feel like that's pretty important. Yeah, that's kind of like my thing now, guitar. So that's kind of a big deal. That would be Train of Thought from Dream Theater. That's the only like piece of music thing that I have tattooed on me. So if I had to pick one, that would probably be it. Just because it like literally, I was like, when I heard that, drums was my main instrument or my main focus at the time, and that's what made me want to start writing my own songs. Was when I heard that album, and that's why I started playing guitar. But so I could have learn an instrument or be proficient at an instrument with notes, so I could actually like start making my own stuff. That was the thought process behind it.
Let's see. I'm gonna go back to Twitter here and just take another question.
Okay.
This is from Haram. It looks like work on a Doom soundtrack. Or like the game?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to show you, but I always go backwards. You see my arm?
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I play Doom. Yeah, I'm supposed to be or I was talking to Mick Gordon for a little bit, like a few months ago, and he said he was down to do a track together for my next album. I haven't heard from him in a few months because he's been super busy, like producing Bring Me the Horizon songs and other video game stuff. Like I know he's scoring another new game that's coming out on the next gens that's going to be crazy sick. So I know he's busy. I know he's really busy, but he was like super down and seemed really excited about it when we were emailing back and forth a few months ago. So hopefully he can still pull that off with his schedule, because that'll be sick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, like my dream, was always to have like a pop punk song in a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got hit in the feels hard with that remaster when it came out, and I played it for a little bit. Some of those songs popped up. I was just like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Yep.
Yep, that definitely got me into a lot of weird stuff for sure. Some of it I can't listen to anymore, but there's a few where I was just like, yeah, that's still really catchy. That's still cool for sure. And Suicide Machines, I think in particular, like their stuff was always probably, I think, the coolest to me out of that game. Well, that's kind of a relevant one. Why do I prefer Axe Effects over anything else? That's mostly because like I only use Axe Effects live, just because it's consistent. Like what you're getting every single day. You can automate all the patch changes, all of your sounds, like clean, lead, rhythm, super tight gate for the more rhythmic stuff. Lo-fi, all of that. It's just consistent, easy. It's one 3-space rack unit, and doesn't take it. You can put it in an overhead bin when you fly. All of those kinds of things. It's just so consistent, and it sounds plenty good enough. And I usually run it through a power amp, like an actual amp too, live. Nice. But that's the main reason for that. And honestly, like it does everything it needs to. I don't need to try the other ones. I'm not like that super big on tone chasing anymore. Because everything I have sounds great. Like I feel like I mean, obviously you could still like make things sound better, but I'm just happy with what I have. I'd rather focus on writing and stuff like that, or like actually like playing the playing part of everything, not just sitting here changing EQs and trying out different amp heads and stuff like that. I know that some people's like shit, like that's what they really like to do, which is cool. That's fine. But for me personally, I have stuff that sounds plenty good now, so I'm kind of just like, I'm good.
You're
like,
set.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the wheel's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
So have you like do a lot of like your contemporaries too? Are they all using like a lot of Axe effects, and do you see a lot more digital?
Yeah, the majority of my friends use the Axe effects for sure. I mean, obviously, there's a few a handful of people out there that I know that like they like the Kemper better for some reason. I've personally never like had one to like mess around with. I just know it's limited and capabilities as versus the Axe effects. Still sounds incredible. Like the Kemper is a great unit. It sounds awesome. Like I'm pretty sure Mayer uses it. So like it obviously sounds great, but it's way more focused on, to my knowledge at least, actual profiling, not like extensive like effect chains and stuff like that. Because if Axe effects can be used as a standalone just effect processor, it doesn't have to be for guitars. Like you don't even have to use an amp block in there. Like you could have like a crazy chain of just all these bizarre effects for like a synth or orchestra or something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with all of its inputs and outputs, like you can get pretty weird with it if you want to. And it's all standalone. Your computer doesn't rely on the processing. So you can do like tons of stuff and then it doesn't bog anything down. That's another thing that's really sick, actually. I just remembered is when I'm recording, I use the Axe effects to monitor my guitar. So there's no latency whatsoever. I just have it on the hardware mixer of my interface. I just have that input monitored at all times. So that way when I'm tracking, it's just coming out. It doesn't matter what anything is set to in my session. It's just real time. And then I take that DI, just dump it onto my plugin track.
And you can kind of mess with it more from there once it's already kind of recorded.
Yep.
Kind of fine tune it.
Yep. So that's one of the sickest things about that is for monitoring while you're tracking.
And you can be, I mean, for people that have, neighbors or kids or anything like that, I mean, you can do everything straight through your headphones too, right?
Yep. If you wanted to, yep. I do plan to have 8-string material. That's another one on here. Or yeah, one of the songs is that I have finished right now is an 8-string one.
Are you finding yourself kind of like when you gravitate towards, let's say, like the 8-string, something that you haven't done as much in the past? Do you do it just because you picked up the 8-string and you're like, I'm feeling this right now, let's do it? Or do you have it kind of in mind before going into like the recording or the writing process?
That one I had in mind before. I knew I wanted to use an 8 for that song.
Do you have any practice tips for your alternate picking?
Metronome.
Yeah.
Slow. And then just gradually work up. I know that's it's like beating a dead horse at this point when people ask that question, but that's it. Just do that. You just got to be patient and if you just put the time in, you'll get there.
I think some people underestimate the work ethic of some musicians. It's like how often would you say you practiced when you were like in your prime of like really learning?
Hours. Yeah. Anywhere from like 2 to 10.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few 10-hour days before. Like obviously, like breaks in between, like here and there for like food and water and bathroom and stuff. But I've definitely done a couple 10-hour days. I think when I got the 7-string version of this, that I did one of those.
Yeah.
I was just so hyped. Hadn't been like that stoked on guitar in a few months. So, and then when that one came, I just went for it. I was like, this thing is sick.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, then you start getting like, blood blisters on your fingers and all that fun stuff. And I think I'm going to start trying to use like either 9s or 9.5s in standard now, solely because of that. Because like if you go for a little bit without a break, you start doing like tons of bends, like step and a half, 2-step bends, like that destroys your fingers if you haven't played for a while. And just like a little bit lighter, it's just like makes it just like that, just a little bit easier, but it's not enough to like make your bends all squirrely and all of that kind of shit. Another thing that I did unintentionally when I was younger that in hindsight helped a lot, especially with finger strength, was back to that Train of Thought album. The tunings on that album are all over the place. It's like
I think the only song that's in standard tuning is on a 7-string. Everything else is some weird, bizarre variation of a 6-string, like C standard, D standard, E flat standard. I don't think there's one song on there that's just like a 6-string E, A, D, G, B, E. But I wanted to learn all of it. So you obviously can't play 9s in C standard or something like that. That won't sound good or be fun to play. So I think I got 12s, a 12 gauge pack. That I'd put on the guitar I had, and I would just leave that on there and play every tuning in 12 on a 12 gauge set, including normal standard, because I just wanted the guitar to stay in tune when I was changing throughout all those different tunings. And so I would be going from like C standard to E standard with the same 12 gauge set. So it'd be way easier to play in C standard, but then when you tune it up 2 whole steps every string, it's like all of a sudden the tightest thing ever, and like this like borderline like Stevie Ray status, like thick strings. So in hindsight, that definitely helped a lot with like finger strength and stuff like that, playing 12s in standard. But I didn't realize that in the time. I just wanted my guitar to stay in tune for all the different tunings. Yeah.
The happy accidents that turn into, something that's kind of a part of you.
Yep.
I definitely have been playing more guitar, having more time. And I feel like sometimes as a musician, you kind of hit like a plateau for a little bit. And then there's like that one thing that you learn that like just opens up like a whole new world of like what you can do now on the guitar.
Yep. It's addicting and you get better at it and it's just more fun.
Did you have that moment when you were younger where you just like learned a certain song and you're like, that's it, like I know how to do this now, kind of type of thing?
Oh yeah, there are definitely quite a few of those, especially like when I was finally able to play like Dream Theater solos like efficiently and clean, not just sound like complete mess. Try to play like as fast as I can and like nothing syncing up. Because everyone goes through that phase where they're like, yeah, I could shred. And then you look back at later, like 10 years, and you look back at that video and you're like, what? Like, you got to start somewhere. But like, I remember being like pumped on that, which is good. You need that. And you need like encouragement from everyone to like keep getting better and stuff. But in hindsight, you go and look, like I've seen some videos of me when I was like a teenager, like before I'd taken lessons, and it's the worst shit ever. It's like so bad. Like just completely butchering like one solo from Metallica, like the tapping part, and then just, like,
yeah. But at the time, you're like, man, I figured this out. Like I know how to play this.
Yeah, like I nailed that.
That could have been on the album.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely those moments for sure. But I remember for one in particular, it always stands out to me, like a subtle thing was I was watching Dream Theater live at Budokan, and one of the solos, one of the slower ones, I remember distinctly seeing JP slide down into a note, not up. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You could do that? I recognize the sound, obviously, but I didn't realize that's like you could be like slide down into the note, not up. I remember that revelation being like momentous, just like
the
huge.
simplest thing.
Yeah, it's like so subtle, but it adds like such like a difference in the sound as opposed to just being like always. You could be like,
yeah. So did you have to kind of like train yourself then to get out of the habit of going up instead of down?
Probably.
Yeah.
But now I just don't even think about it. Now it just happens. It's just part of your playing eventually. Like, because once you have that revelation, something like that, you start doing it more, and then it just happens naturally with your playing. As
far as like guest appearances and like parts and stuff like that, I'm seeing a lot of collaboration between people.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like you and like Polyphia and Chon and those types of dudes. Like y'all are kind of working with each other and being featured on each other's albums. Like, how does that conversation start as far as like being a featured artist or featuring someone on your stuff?
Usually, I mean, your friends, they just ask. They're like, hey, we have space here. You want to do something? And
you're like,
sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty much it. Yeah. It doesn't get much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Other than just it's your friend and they ask you just like, hey, you want to play on this? And you're like, yeah, sure. I can do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's nice too, especially, if you're further away from somebody, they can kind of track their own part, send it over, put it in there, and boom.
Yep, exactly.
Do you have
technology?
do you have certain musicians in mind for future collaborations or anything?
Well, Tim actually from Polyphia, I already have his part for a new song. Came out real sick. That song's finished being written. His part, I have it all in the song and everything. That one's pretty much good to go. Just got to get it like actually recorded now with real drums and then mixed by my guy or my friend Taylor Larson. And well, Mick, like I was saying earlier, like he's supposed to be doing a song. I haven't heard from him in a while, so I hope he can still pull it off. But hopefully he'll be on one of those new songs too, Mick Gordon. But other than that, I have a few other people in mind that I haven't asked yet to do a solo or to do solos. So I don't want to like put names out there and then jinx it. But it would be sick. It would be sick. I know Andy McKee said he's down. I don't have a spot for him yet, but we talked about that like a couple years ago, and he said he'd be down for sure. So that could be really cool for sure. Because I really only like having people feature that are going to bring something like drastically new or different than what I'm doing. Like I see people ask all the time about like other crazy shredders that are really, really good players, but I'm not necessarily as like keen to ask them to feature because they're kind of doing like something that I already have covered, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So it's not to knock any of them at all. I would just rather have, if I'm going to have someone feature, I would rather have it be like a new kind of like sound or flavor or just something different being brought to the song.
And I think super important when you're doing a collab is like, especially with guitar, because it's like, it's not a vocal where it's more, defined by that individual. But I feel like a lot of times with the
player is good enough that happens though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's there's a lot of times where I'll listen to a song with a featured artist with a guitar player. I'm like, boom, they've just popped in. That's their part. Like you can tell.
Yep.
Like I knew immediately with I think is it Nasty by Polyphia where you have a part on there.
Yep.
Dude, as soon as you come in, it's like, yeah, it's Jason Richardson. Like,
nice.
It's got
Sick.
that. It's got that voice to it. The fact that I think you and some other guitar players out there are able to do that, and then you take advantage of it with the collaborations is awesome. I think it's moving guitar in like a new direction almost, where it's less of like a tool for something bigger and more of like, this is the show. This is what I'm defined by.
Yeah, I feel you for sure.
Sweet, dude. Well, thank you so much again, and probably talk to you soon.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right, later.
Bye.
All right, well, that pretty much does it. Again, this is John from zZounds, and for more info, make sure to hit those links in the description. See you soon.